All right, welcome back to the death lineup here. I think we're going to try and figure, at least until the season starts, Thursday afternoon Pacific time is probably a pretty good time for us to record. So hopefully we'll be able to keep this time on Thursdays. It fits right in the BSPN schedule because Brad and I do our show on Monday, and we usually have some stuff from the Red and Gold Standard earlier in the week as well. So this is a nice little time frame for us. So first off, Bri, what's going on?
Nothing much. How are you doing?
It's late in the week. I'm gonna go have dinner with our good friend Ben Cruz in a little bit after this, so that'll be pretty fun. But yeah, just not a lot of basketball news. But even though I say there's not a lot of basketball news, I look at the rundown that I created for this show, and there's enough to talk about, which is kind of crazy for August. You know, what is it? 2 whole months before the season even starts. So yeah, it's the NBA just works that way.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to ask you a couple things because the big story was the schedule release. And I didn't even know it was releasing that day, but you were texting our group chat going like, oh, schedule's about to come out, schedule's about to come out. So schedule comes out, and opening night, as was heavily rumored, Warriors and Lakers on Tuesday to kick off the season. And, you know, poor LeBron's got to watch the Warriors get more rings. I don't know why he agreed to that one.
Yeah. Has the schedule release always been this like publicized or like big of a deal? I guess I don't remember it being like everyone mark your calendars and like Woj and Shams are like breaking the news and of what Christmas is before we even learn. Like, has it always been like that?
I wouldn't say always, but I think it's been like that, you know, for at least the last couple years. You know, the NFL is the one that does it even bigger than the NBA. Like they have a whole TV show dedicated to the schedule. I don't know if you saw that on the NFL Network, but when the schedule came out, like I'm watching it going like, okay, I know the 49ers and the Rams are going to play twice, and the Niners and the Cardinals are going to play twice. What's the big whoop? But I think a lot of it is these national games, right? You have the Monday night
Yeah.
and the Sunday night in the NFL, and Thursday night now with Amazon in tow, and they got all those games. And for the NBA, similarly, opening night, Christmas, and we'll talk about the Warriors Christmas game in a second. And the season is long, which is 82 games versus 16 games. Not every single game in the NBA is important like like it is in the NFL. But yeah, you're creating a little bit of hype before, or when nothing is really going on but baseball right now. So when we looked at, so obviously you mentioned opening night, so we get to play the Lakers. I imagine the Lakers are going to be pretty fired up for this game. I was trying to reflect back. I remember the season that KD came, they got smoked by San Antonio opening day, I think. I'm trying to remember some of the other title teams and what they did opening day. But like that whole celebration, it's going to be ring night. I think it's ring night. I think that's the night that you get your ring. And so there's a hoopla around it. And then you still have to go out and play the basketball game. So I imagine, the Lakers are probably going to come pretty fired up and they'll be healthy. So this will be the best of the Lakers for the season. And I think that'll be a really good and competitive game.
And JTA is going to get his ring too.
Oh, yeah. That'll be fun.
They could be as competitive as they want. Actually, the Lakers did beat the Warriors when Steph was healthy. We didn't really have a full squad for the majority of last year, but with that closing lineup that the Athletics, Jovan Buha, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not entirely sure. Well, he put out where it's like, he was a Clippers guy, but now he's a Lakers guy.
Oh, I didn't know he was with the Lakers.
Yeah. He said, I think the closing lineup is looking like Austin Reeves, Troy Brown Jr., LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Juan Toscano Anderson. Like it just doesn't look good for them this upcoming year. I have a question for you though. That's kind of unrelated to it's related to scheduling, but unrelated to specifically the Warriors. Do you wish that? Correct me if I'm wrong. Do they play every single team? Like they play every single team, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Do you wish it was more like?
I think the way the schedule works is you play everybody in your division four times.
Mm-hmm.
everybody in your conference 3 times and then everybody in the other conference 2 times. I think
Yeah.
that's how it works.
Do you wish it was kind of like the MLB where it's almost like the Giants and the Yankees never play each other? So when they do, it's kind of a big deal and it feels more special than, say, the Warriors seeing Brooklyn, I don't know, twice a year.
I I think what would happen is the really, really good teams would face the really, really bad teams way too many times, and thus you'd have these, like, really inflated records, like,
Ah,
the Warriors the Warriors didn't have a super gaudy record last year, but imagine if they played the Kings 6 times
yeah.
versus the 4 times, then, then you're just padding your record for the regular season. So,
Yeah, no,
I
that
think
makes sense.
in baseball, this is even before you were born, they didn't even have interleague play. So when I was growing up, it was all National League, National League. There was no National League, American League. The only time you got to see those teams, anybody from the American League play the National League was during the All-Star game, which was why the All-Star game was kind of like a big deal back then, and it's really not a big deal today. And then it was either then or in the World Series, and that's the only time you would see. And then I think it was the late '90s they did the interleague play because they wanted to bring more people to the ballpark, and it made their TV package more valuable when you could, like you said, see the Giants against the Yankees. And I think if you do have the NL East for baseball and you're the Giants, you're like, yes, I get to sell a 3-game series against the Red Sox, and I get to sell a 3-game series against the Yankees. We're gonna make so much money, jumping up those prices. So, I mean, I think it would make it a little bit more special, maybe when you get those crossover teams, the Warriors, Celtics, or whatever. But they're still only playing twice versus playing the Kings 4 times, so it's still a
Mhm.
little bit special. You get a home and home, and I think it's worked out the way that it currently works.
Yeah, I hear it. I hear it.
Okay, so when you looked at that schedule for the Warriors, and I'll pull up some of the interesting games here. Is there a specific matchup that stood out for you earlier in the season where you're like, man, I kind of want to go to that game?
I mean, I'd love to go to Denver in the second game is really intriguing to me. Uh I'm optimistic on the Warriors start because it isn't like the hardest teams to play, but I wouldn't say 9-0 like last year or whatever it was. I
I mean,
see.
Nuggets, Suns, Heat. Those are
Yep.
3 out of the first 5 games. Those will all be tough games.
Oh yeah, and Denver coming off of what a 5-game playoff round one where they got booted. They have their guys back. They might suit up for that one, and not suit up, but might get circle that one on their schedule.
Yeah. So let's talk about Christmas. Christmas, the Warriors are playing the Memphis Grizzlies. I feel like Ja and Draymond kind of made this one happen. Like they had their little, you know, Ja and kind of continuing to tweet after the Warriors beat the Grizzlies, and they made this thing happen. I think that's probably the right game for the for Christmas, because obviously the Celtics were tough. The Celtics had a 2-1 lead, but I think the Grizzlies were right there as far as the hardest matchup, maybe even harder, because it took the Warriors a little while to solve them. And some of that was Morant getting hurt.
Agreed. I mean, in all fairness to Ja, in regards to like tweeting, Clay did like throw some shots in his when he got the ring. I think they did the media after, and Clay still threw some shots at Jaren Jackson Jr. Regardless, I would have shut my mouth if I was the Grizzlies, but I think that's what kind of kept it going. But I wonder if Ja and Draymond didn't have that exchange on Twitter, would this have still been the matchup? Because for me, it would have been, but I guess like maybe the national media or everyone who's not in this little Warriors bubble that I'm in would maybe think of Warriors Nets or Warriors Lakers even. But to me, this was the clear one the whole time. It's going to be the most competitive. It's going to be the most fun. I wonder if you're like the Warriors though, and you're like, man, like we never get Christmas off. Like when's the last time Steph's gotten December 25th to spend time with his family?
So I
So
started thinking about that. I want to say the first Christmas game that the Warriors had with this current roster was against the Clippers, and it was the late game. It's like the 7:30 game. And this was the Clippers are better than the Warriors at this point. I want to say it was like maybe 2013, maybe sometime around there.
Was that the sleeve jerseys or no?
Sleeve jerseys would have been
14
or 15.
Like, I remember they had an ugly one for Christmas with sleeves, and I think that might have been that one.
But yeah, ever since then, every single year they play on Christmas. So even the year that they were really bad, they had to play on Christmas against the Rockets or something.
Yeah.
And last year they beat the Suns on Christmas. So it's a pretty, like, I look forward to it. Like, now it's kind of a tradition, and I'm like, oh, because of my parents, your grandparents, they're not where we live anymore. And that would be like the big parties to go to their house, and then, family, and then now watch game. But now these last couple years, it's just a little bit of a smaller gathering, and you and your brother come to my place and we watch the game. So it's different, but like, I just look forward to it because one thing, Christmas, you get the hoopla around Christmas and the gifts with the kids in the morning, but you're like, I know I'm going to get some Warriors basketball sometime today.
And I think out of the 5 Christmas games, like 2 of them suck. So I know what time I'm going to be like really engaging with the family. Lakers Mavericks, yeah, I'm not watching that. I think Knicks and Sixers, not watching that. That's in the morning anyway, but yeah, I'm not waking up early for that one.
Yeah, so speaking of the rest of the games, Boston and the Bucks, that's a pretty good game. That was the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Is that right?
Semifinals.
Oh yeah, because
Heat.
Because Middleton was hurt. And so that's a little bit of a, there's that narrative out there that if Middleton doesn't get hurt, the Bucks may be the finals. It might have been in the finals except for the Celtics. And then you get that late night classic game, the Nuggets and the Suns. But yeah, that Warriors Memphis is the best one of that day. And I don't know if I'm the Grizzlies, that is the marquee game of their season because they don't get a lot of the national games because they're not in a giant market, but they do have a super exciting player and a now an up and coming exciting team. So I think they will get some more national games this year. I didn't check their schedule, but I would just assume. But this is still like this is the biggest opportunity for them to show out. So they're gonna come there, and then for the Warriors, it's like, well, we got to defend our turf, man. Like, they're coming to our place, and Draymond, like when they were going back and forth, Ja was like, "You guys come here," and Draymond's like, "Nah, the champions always have the home game on Christmas." And but then he said after when they made it happen, and Ja tweeted out, and Draymond's like, yeah, and then you come over to the crib after for dinner. So that it's a fun rivalry, but it's not disrespectful in any way.
I think Draymond likes Ja too much for it to be like super, super bad bloody.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Jaren Jackson's out until I want to say November or December, so he should be coming back in time for that game. And I also want to say that I think that Memphis's national games is in the 13 to 20 range. I don't know why those two numbers, but I know they took a big jump from last year, right?
Yeah, and deservedly so.
Yeah,
they, like I said, I kind of feel like they were the best team the Warriors played in the postseason last year.
Them or the Celtics, yeah.
And it's close either way. Both teams are really good, and I gave the Warriors a whole ton. All right, so the only other thing I want to point out is it's pretty cool that the Warriors only have 5 preseason games this year. They have a late September, so we're talking like 6 weeks from now. Warriors and Wizards in the preseason in Japan, in Saitama. I wonder if that's the Saitama Super Arena. So they play Friday and Saturday back to back against the Wizards. I imagine Rui is going to be a big part of that game. I know the Warriors had a Japanese player on
Baba, is that his name?
On the summer league team.
I think his name's Baba.
Do they bring him out? Like, they got to bring him out, right?
Yeah, he's got to play all 48.
I feel like he should make the trip for sure.
You know when rest in peace Kobe, but remember when LeBron and Kobe were like, I think Kobe was posting up LeBron or LeBron was posting up Kobe in an All-Star game, and it's like
Yeah.
an iconic shot, and
Yeah.
then Drake sticks his head in. I wonder if it's gonna be like the iconic shot where Baba is posting up Rui and the Japan crowd is on their feet.
No, I think it's really cool. Not just because I'm half Japanese, but just like you're the NBA's global. Is the most one of the more global. It's probably the most global U.S. sport, and
What
to
about
see them.
baseball?
Baseball draws talent globally, but I don't know if baseball is as big, or if like let's say Mike Trout goes to China. I
Yeah,
don't think
maybe.
anybody cares.
Yeah, no.
Whereas if Steph and Clay
Yeah.
and James Harden, those guys go to China, like the crowds love those
MLB
guys.
is so bad at marketing their guys like that. Like,
It's
it
not
doesn't feel
great.
right. Like that Klay Thompson is probably very well known globally, and then Mike Trout, like the best player in baseball for the past 10 years, is just like, I don't know. He's not a household name whatsoever.
What would be awesome is if they get a little bit of crossover, right? Like you should have Otani go back with them and like
Mm-hmm.
be a part of that. Like that would be really cool, like a little partnership with the MLB and NBA. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I
All
agree.
right. So let's move on and let's talk about you went to the Pro-Am. Now I know this isn't really Warriors related, but I was just kind of wondering because the Pro-Am was in San Francisco. What was it like at a gym?
Yes, it was at it's a Kezar Stadium.
Okay,
Yep.
so it is at least a small
Yeah,
place. But no, that's pretty cool. Now, who was like the main draw for the people who were playing?
it was supposed to be Juan Toscano Anderson. But right before I was leaving to the Pro Am, I checked the roster and it said left for LA. So
Oh,
he played the game
JTA.
before on Wednesday, and I went to the Friday game because it was like a 3-gamer championship series. They
Mhm.
split 2, so they played the finale, and JTA doesn't go.
Did his team lose?
His team did lose.
Oh,
Yeah,
JTA.
they would have won had he been there.
Oh
But
man.
yeah, I mean, with JTA, they lost game 2, so I don't even know. But there was a Santa Cruz Warriors guy, Kendall. What was his name? It's gonna bother me, but Kendall. It's not that important. Kendall Smith of the Santa Cruz Warriors. He's like a 6'1", 6'2" guard,
Mhm.
pretty built, and he was just like the best player on that team. And it was just like once he's off the court, they'd make the run back. And that's what happened.
So were
I
these
think it was
like former college players? Is that who filled out these rosters?
okay. So yeah, they have this played at tab, and I'm on their site right now, and it's like, it's guys who are like international. So they so my buddy James, his sister's boyfriend, his name's Kenny Woodard, and he plays in Puerto Rico, and he's a bucket. And yeah, just like some guy, like it says played at Cal, ABA. I don't know what ABA is. USF, like yeah, it's just like college kids, and there was a high school kid, and then just like international guys.
No,
So
it's pretty cool. Like it's not what you would call I get by the name Pro-Am is a mix, I'm assuming, of professionals and amateurs, but
that
still
makes sense.
but still, like it's still high level ball,
Yeah.
and hoopers who are really hungry. So it was pretty cool when you said that you
No,
were
yeah,
going.
really entertaining. And I feel like I was watching from the sidelines and just like I felt like I knew it was wrong. Like about so I was obviously rooting for the not Kendall team because that had my friend's sister's boyfriend. It's a weird
Mhm.
connection. But
Mhm.
I feel like I was like talking to his buddies on the bench because I got to hang out with him and his buddies. And I was like, guys, like this is just seems so obvious to me that like maybe get the Santa Cruz Warriors guy on like screen. So Kenny would act like Steph. He was just like the off-ball guy who's just running around screens and people are trying to catch up to him because he could just hit from 3. And I was like, what if you can get Kendall switched on to that, who's chasing him around the threes, make him tired, and that's just when you get your run. But I mean, they won, but that was just my
Did
thing.
you hit up your friend Rafael Barlow and go, hey man, you got to watch out for what do you think about this guy? I'll be your scout. I'll be
I
your
think Kenny's
Pro-Am
like
scout.
26.
All right, let's change over to so have a graphic here for the video, folks. Um, the Warriors debuted some new jerseys that are going to be part of their uniform this season. So the first one that came out was the city uniform, and it looks like the Cal Bears or the Michigan State or the Michigan Wolverines. That doesn't really look like a Warriors uniform to me.
Yeah, it's like too dark navy.
Now a navy color, like I mean, you can look at our unfortunately for folks who are listening on podcast, you don't see the screen, but our logo is a navy because back in the day, the Warriors did have a navy and an orange and yellow color,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a little bit more of a navy and bright yellow. So it's almost like a mix of the old mid 2000s uniforms and like the current uniforms. I don't know if that was the reason why they did it, but yeah, it is an interesting color pattern for a Warriors jersey.
It's just getting too modern. All the NBA teams are doing it. They have this like modern look of a jersey. Like there's just no flair to that. There's no. It just I would never buy that.
Okay, you
If I
say
buy a
that.
jersey, I want.
You say that, and
Uh-huh.
then there's going to be a Moses Moody City jersey, and you're going to go, do I want that jersey?
I don't know. I don't even. This is gonna ruffle some feathers, but I'm not even too high on the TMC
The
ones.
Run TMC ones? So the
Yeah,
classic
the
uniforms
classics. I'm
with
not even
Chris
too high on
Mullen
those.
and the bucket hat?
I like the
So
bucket hat.
okay, so I think I had a Hardaway and I had a Spreewell when I was in high school, and maybe even out of high school. So that jersey is near and dear to my heart. But I know the one that you remember from when you were really small is the one we were mentioning, the mid 2000s one, and that's the
Is
one
that
that you want to make a comeback.
the Antoine Jameson one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand how, like, for example, the Pistons are bringing back their teal jerseys,
Mhm.
and a lot of fans associate the teal jerseys with being on a
Not
losing team.
Yeah, because they went from winning championships to not, and then
Yeah.
winning championships again.
But, like, as a guy who, like, wasn't even invested in the Pistons whatsoever, just, like, looking at those jerseys from I don't know how long ago, 20 years ago? I don't know how long ago
Yeah,
it was.
Grant Hill,
But
so we're
yeah, the Grant Hill
talking,
team.
like, mid to late 90s.
I think those are so cool. Like, I understand, like, I didn't start becoming a Warriors fan in 2014 or 2013. Like, maybe that's when I started understanding basketball at a higher level, but, I liked the Warriors all the way through. And to me, I guess I just don't care if the jersey is associated with a bad era. I think if it looks cool, it looks cool to me. I think those Antoine Jameson ones, like, I would buy that right away.
Well, the other thing about that jersey is they were the jersey of the We Believe Warriors. So that is the other part of it where, Baron Davis and Al Harrington and those guys. So
And the Warriors
um,
already retroed those when KD was back, right?
it wasn't exactly, I think
It
it
was like a
was like,
one game thing, right?
I think it was close. I think it was like a close version of it. Um, but so the one thing about those We Believe jerseys is I think the white is not great, but that navy color is pretty sharp. So that
Mhm.
would be the one that I would love to see come back. But yeah, no, I get it. The Run TMC, a little bit more old school. Like even when I was younger, they had a white and sort of a navy outline on the front, but it was a white jersey. But that's like really old school. That's like mid to late 80s. But yeah, I think it's cool that they do this with the jerseys. Um, it's another thing that baseball has tried to do, right? I don't think that baseball does enough of it to like retro. Like you can retro, and then they have the city jerseys, and a lot of the city jerseys look really goofy. But the NBA does it really well. They could even do it even better. I would love to see more of it, like not only just these two jerseys for the Warriors, but add in a couple other and we'll get a Christmas one. There will be a Christmas one, but you
No,
can
will
have like
there?
Did they not have Christmas
They
jerseys
don't
last
do it.
year?
I don't think they do it anymore since Nike. Nike's the uniforms now. I think since Nike took over, they haven't done it.
These ones have Jordan brand on it. Both of these
Mm.
Warriors jerseys have
Because who
Jordan
was
brand.
doing it before? Was it Adidas?
Yeah, I don't
Or
remember.
I don't remember, but whoever it was before did the Christmas jerseys, and I think ever since Nike started doing the jerseys, or Jordan or Nike, like I don't think they've done Christmas jerseys at all.
Yeah, but I would like to see like special game jerseys. Like you could do the city ones and they'll roll those out a couple times. You could do the Run TMC ones, they'll do those a couple times. You have your normal jerseys, and then like Christmas game, like you have one.
Yeah.
Opening night, you can have one.
Or Rivals Week.
Right, yeah, that you can pick certain games like, oh, this is the game where we both wear our special uniforms. So I think they could even get more creative, but that's how they do it.
What I would like to say though is I like that that teams are rolling out some of the classic retro jerseys, but I feel like teams should do it when there's promise or when you're good. Like for example, the Utah Jazz rolled out their iconic like rendition of the Stockton Malone era jerseys, like that purple with the mountain. And their team is god awful. Like
But how do you predict that though?
So do you think they had it like planned 2 years in advance or just a year?
Yeah, these marketing things take a little while. Like you can't like just all of a sudden print up something. I'm sure there's licensing agreements, and there's I'm sure somebody gets paid in this as well. But yeah, I think every team should go into the season with something fresh and something new, especially in the beginning. Because like, imagine if you're a Kings fan, then you're telling me that they would never do anything retro because like if they wanted to bring back the Chris Webber jersey or
it would be now. Do it now. This is like the
Yeah.
most promise I've seen from the Kings since Boogie was there.
Yeah, so who knows? All right, let's talk. We did this last week for the show, and want to do it for pretty much every young player that they have. What to expect from? And last week we did Wiseman, and this week I wanted to do Moses Moody. Now you're a big Moody guy. We were talking about him all through the playoffs. He would get a little bit of run here and there. He got one good chunk of a game against Dallas, but otherwise he didn't play very much in the playoffs. And all we hear from the team is that he's young, but he thinks like he's older, and he's a very responsible guy. He fits in. He understands what he needs to do. So do you think that translates into this season where he will get regular minutes?
I think it will. I completely agree. From like the eye test, it just feels like he does all the right things. He's got like a veteran savvy mind. I mean, if we talk about the guys who are coming off the bench, JP, Dante DiVincenzo, the big ragu, Jermichael Green, and then do you think it's the Moody Kuminga? If you had to think,
It's a good question.
because that's what I was thinking. I thought Jordan Poole, and then the two new guys, and then I don't know who's going to back up. Maybe Wiseman comes in earlier because Loon usually comes out earlier.
My guess is Wiseman is going to be your second guy off the bench, and then it sort of falls down from there. But I guess the other thing though that's important to note is the vets aren't going to play every single game, right?
Yeah, no,
they're going to give Clay certain games off on.
Clay's going to get back-to-backs off,
back-to-back nights.
Draymond might too.
So who steps in? Do you think Moody then slides up to be the sixth man? Because probably more than likely Poole will join Steph in the backcourt, or maybe Moody starts and Poole stays in that six-man role just for size and defensive substitution reasons. Poole, I don't know if Poole would like that very much.
Yeah, we're going back to the machismo in the playoffs.
So my thought is, I think there's going to be a lot of minutes there because of the rest. And the Warriors really did this perfectly last year, if you think about it. They were not healthy until the playoffs, and then were healthy throughout the playoffs. Like, that is amazing management of the injuries and not putting too many minutes on guys. Like, it was amazing. Now some of it is luck, obviously, because you could do it perfectly and then someone turns their ankle and then they're out. But man, that was, just really masterful. So I would imagine that they're probably going to take a similar blueprint. Now, Clay is not going to be injured to start the season, but you still want to manage those minutes. Draymond is not going to be injured, but you want to manage those minutes. And Steph, right? Steph is going to be what, 34, 35, and he played
Like 60 something.
how many
Oh,
playoff
playoff.
games? So his total overall games was probably 80 or close to it. And that's a lot of mileage. And he's had injuries in his career that so he's not playing like LeBron kind of minutes throughout his career on his on his minutes odometer, but still you want to manage those as well. So there's going to be games, and this happens with Steph. He's going to get dinged up. There's going to be a pocket of time, more than likely, where he's got to miss more than one game in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just time. Okay, he's going to miss. He's going to rest. He's going to also not put those miles on his legs. And then Poole's going to start, and then Moody slides up again. So I think there's going to be so many moments like that where we're going to see Moody in the mix, and he's going to have like 25-minute nights. And then there's going to be nights where he doesn't play that much, like when they have the full squad, and maybe he gets a couple minutes here and there. So I think it's going to be kind of up and down depending on how they do the rest. But I also think that he's going to get more playing time than we may even realize because of that. And then if there is an injury, and we hope not, then he's got to play more. So that there's always the possibility of that. So I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity this year, and the minutes may not be consistent, but he's going to get a lot of opportunity, a lot of reps, because where they really are going to need him is in the next couple years when the team gets a little bit older and they have to rely on some of their younger legs.
Yeah, and I think Moody is like the ultimate 3-and-D guy who can just, I think he can just give you 30, like when guys are out, and he has to take over. Like, I think he really could just give you 30. I don't know how much shot creation he has. We saw it in Santa Cruz. He has shot creation, but I think the step up into the NBA, guys are a little quicker, a little more athletic. It might be harder for him to do that, but he's got the 3-point shot down. Like his shot form looks amazing, and I think it's just repetition. And I hope that he can at least get that in the beginning of the season. But even if not, I think he'll be fine, because defensively he just does the right things and he's in the right places, and he doesn't mind not shooting. If I'm sure he loves shooting 3-pointer. I'm sure everyone loves scoring, but if he's in a lineup with Steph, Wiggs, Poole, Draymond, and Clay, or I think he's just totally fine just doing the right things, and he doesn't have that kind of ego to him.
Now, if I was to give you a point total per game for Moody, and I made it at like 6, would you take the over or the under?
Okay, so I just looked at his last year's 4.4. You're giving me 6. That's a good over or under, because I'd probably guess 6.
Yeah.
I'll take the over.
I think I would take the over slightly as well, just because I think there's going to be pockets where he's going to have to play because of circumstance, and he'll get some good minutes and some opportunities, especially with who he probably will be playing with. He'll get some good opportunities.
And like you said, it's going to be inconsistent. I don't think it'll be totally consistent. So it's kind of hard when, one night he's getting 25 minutes, the next night he's getting 11 minutes. Points are going to be higher on one side than the other. So.
And, some of a lot of this was when the Warriors were really, really good. And, we're talking 17, 16, 15. Like, Steph almost never played heavy minutes in the fourth quarter because the Warriors were winning by so many points in those games. And that could also be a thing where if the Warriors are playing really, really well and they get up in the fourth, and then Steph and Clay don't really have to play that much in the fourth. And that's when you turn it over to Moody and Kuminga and Poole and go, okay, you guys just go. And he could pick up some minutes there too.
What's interesting about this team is that these games, where they go to Canada and sometimes Steph and Dre and Clay don't go. or on back-to-backs when some of the main guys don't play, or just when the main guys want to rest and these young guys get to go play. Like those might be must-watch television
Well,
because
what was the game last year? Wasn't there a Toronto game where like they
yeah,
played all the subs?
yeah. They did Toronto, Denver, New Orleans, San Antonio. Like there was a ton of times they did it, and a ton of times where it was actually an entertaining game. Speaking of the playoffs against Luka when they almost came back.
Yeah.
When but like adding Patrick Baldwin Jr. We'll see what happens with Ryan Rollins, and then Wiseman being back. Like that just makes it all of the more fun to like. I'm totally gonna watch that.
In the preseason, right? Though those guys will get a lot of run in the preseason too,
Mm-hmm.
and that they will, because they're all good. They're all kind of they're not fighting for a spot. Obviously, they're probably more than likely all going to have spots on the 15-man roster, but they're edging for play time. They're edging for the rotation spot. Like what they're when Kerr's like, oh gosh, and looks over his shoulder, who's gonna stand up and be ready? Is it Moody? Is it Poole? Like Poole's gonna be in the mix, but is it Moody? Is it Kuminga? Is it the younger guys? So that'll be really interesting too. But yeah, so I guess the only other thing I would say that I want to talk about with Moody is if you were to guess who or what part of his game, like I don't know the answer to this question, but Moses Moody knows, okay, I went through a whole NBA season as a 19-year-old. What is like the one thing all of a sudden in the preseason that we see from him that is like, oh, he was
He
working
worked
on
on
that
that over
thing.
summer. Maybe playing passing lanes more because he kind of showed some glimpses of having those long arms and being smart in the passing lane and grabbing a pass. Maybe it's more on the defensive side than it is the offensive side. Maybe on ball more. He has long arms, so maybe some GP2 just poke it. I just feel like maybe it's like a scouting thing. Maybe he needed a year to like fully see like the competition ahead of him. And I feel like he maybe doesn't have that full experience yet because he didn't get to play that much in his first year. But it's almost like, okay, this is maybe a too big of an example, but Luka's coming to town. I know what Luka does because I've played him before. I feel like Moody is a little bit of a step behind. Maybe it's a quickness thing too, but I also think it's because when you're Clay, when you're Dre, like you've seen these guys, you know how to guard them. That's why you're vets. But with Moody, it's like I've never seen you before. So if you do a quick left, like even though I could probably keep up with it, I just didn't know it was coming.
Yeah, that's a good one because that was the switch that they were able to pull last year is, okay, who's your best guy on offense? Well, we're going to throw GP at him. And they don't have that this year. So that could be a role that Moody tries to slide into a little bit where it's like, oh yeah, he's improved on defense. He can kind of be that semi-stopper or at least throw his fouls there. The thing that I am hoping sort of that he has worked on, because his game, now this is only on last season and the summer league stuff that we watched, but his game it doesn't feel super fluid yet. Like there are things that he does really well, like he shoots the outside shot. I don't have a good gauge on that if he has a really good handle or not. It didn't seem like it, but it's like he does everything well. It's like, okay, he's gonna make the right pass. If he's open, he's gonna shoot. But what about that creativity when he's got the basketball and there's 4 seconds left on the shot clock? I feel a lot of times he's just usually going to get a shot blocked because they know he's got to force something up. But you said he's got long arms. So I want to see if he's worked on like a fadeaway or like some post move or some footwork that shows that, okay, I am taking my offensive game and I'm adding a little tweak here and there because, this is the NBA and I need to figure out how to get my shot off when maybe there's not a shot there and I have to create one.
And I mean, you were there. Like in Santa Cruz, we went and watched Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody play, and Moses Moody was by far the best player in the gym.
Yeah.
Like he had 37, and that was a gym that.
But what about my guy Huff, man?
Okay, second best player. But Stanley
what was
Johnson
that guy's
was
name?
on
Jeff
Sam
Huff?
Jeff
Sam Huff? Jeff? I don't know.
Something like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But Stanley Johnson was on the Lakers, who the Lakers later, after that game, maybe a couple months after, acquired him to be like their defensive
Yeah, he
stopper.
was like a
Stanley
top
Johnson,
10 pick in the draft or something, I
like
think.
a while back, and yeah, he was guarding Kuminga that game. And Moses Moody was still like, he was the best one in that gym. He looked like the best one, and it was all from shot creation. Like, sure, a couple catch and shoot, but he was the one who was initiating everything. So it's there. I would love to see it, but like I just said, it is a different jump from one league to the next. So I agree with you though. If he has those long arms, he should be able to get off a pretty good fadeaway shot if he works on it over the summer.
Yeah, and I think one thing he could do now, maybe his little braids, it's you notice him because of it. I don't know. My guy may need to go shaved head at some point pretty soon.
He's kind of balding.
Yeah, he doesn't have the best hairline.
He looked good at Dre's wedding. Those
Did he?
photos, I thought his hair looked good there.
But I think that might make him even more sleek, like,
Yeah.
ooh, he's more sleek. He's improved his speed. It's like, no, he just cut his hair, but it makes him look a little bit more
Yeah, like the
he's
Jordan Poole,
quicker.
like what Jordan Poole did.
Yeah. So, all
Speaking
right.
of,
Yep.
well,
No, go ahead.
we should like with the 1 in 1,000 or 1 in I don't know how much chance that we should just like say it early. Maybe Jordan Poole All-Star.
You think so? Well,
No,
he's
but
the Warriors are a very popular team, right? Like Wiggins made the All-Star team somewhat because of
yeah,
the
but
group, the
I don't
pop
think
group,
Poole
but
will ever. Poole, I don't think Poole will ever be a starter as long as Steph's there. So it wouldn't be fan vote on the reserves. It's media player.
yeah.
But I just think that Jordan Poole, like since we started watching him in 2019, like he's just tremendously improved every single summer.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be like the guy you hear about, gym rat, picks one specific thing or multiple things to work on over the summer and just goes like to work. He's just always in the gym. So I'm wondering what he's gonna add, and if like he could just do something crazy where he ends up in the All-Star game somehow.
Yeah,
I don't have it, but
and that guy, like, he's got the shot creativity, he's got the handle. I mean, hopefully he's working on his defense, and maybe I don't know if he needs to put on weight or anything, but just getting stronger in some way, because yeah, he's got so many tools. It'd be great to see him continue to blossom in different ways, because the game is definitely there.
It's so unlikely, but because me and Alex actually just on the BAM pod, we were trying to figure out first time All-Stars because we think Anthony Edwards is going to be one, but it like all relies on so many people not being injured. Like all your staple All-Stars, even if they're not having the best season, like a guy like Chris Paul is normally just going to make it regardless of the season he's having. Devin Booker now, Damian Lillard, Steph, Luka, and then there's guys who are coming back. Jamal Murray would be a first-time All-Star. I think if you look at his stats, he's gotten better each year. So I'd be interested to see
how
where
he
lands.
bounces back from the
But yeah,
injury.
it's just there's just so many spots that already feel like if you were to say, okay, who would you have a lock for the All-Star game, like based on like namesake and what you'd expect, like basically everything's taken. So it just depends on, and it's gonna happen every year. Injuries, Kawhi last year, Paul George last year, Anthony Davis last year.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I think we're done. We're done a little early today, which is fine because we are in the off season. But yeah, we'll come back next week, hopefully the same time, around the same time, and we will tackle Jonathan Kuminga next week in our the Kuminga in the what to expect ... because that's going to be a fun one, because it's all over the board. Like, who knows? His summer league was all over the board. There was like glimpses of him being one of the greatest players of all time, and then glimpses of like, what is this dude doing?
I'm excited. That's my guy.
All right, so the BAM Pods, at the BAM Pods on Twitter, the BAM Podcast on the BAM Pod on Instagram, and then is it the BAM Podcast if they're searching in their podcast feed?
Maybe maybe it's too difficult. But it's supposed to be. It's just the BAM on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Okay. And then for those who are not subscribed to us, BSPN, if you type in BSPN, you don't see us. I think you could probably type in Bay Area Sports Podcasting Network as well. But yeah, we have 3 shows in this feed almost every week. And then we're going to add a 4th with once the 49ers get going. We're going to do some live stream stuff after games. And like I said, this show, we're still 2 months into the season, so we'll probably consistently keep our schedule here. But once the season starts, we may do stuff like I mean, I kind of feel like we need to talk about, opening night after the game. Unless you go, I don't know. You're into going to all these games now.
Lacob, man, I cannot believe he's charging $50 or $60 tickets for the worst seat in the house. It just doesn't feel right. Preseason.
Yeah, for the worst seat preseason. Oh my
Preseason, the
gosh.
worst seat, like that, the nosebleeds, even though there's not really a terrible seat in Chase, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. Like the
Yeah.
nosebleeds, very back, starts
Yeah.
at $50.
Wow.
Not cool.
Well, we'll find a couple games to go to anyways. We'll save our money and go to a couple games this year. I know you're dying to go to see the Pistons come to town. When do they come to town?
January 4th, and we know those tickets are going to be cheaper, so that's kind of nice. I'm interested in all these young building teams. Like if the Magic come to town, we should go see them too. That'd be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm down to go see those. I don't have to go see the really, really good teams. We watch them on TV anyway. So, all right, we're done here. So, yeah, check us out on our social medias and yeah, BSPN on Twitter and Instagram is at BSPN shows. All right, so for Bry, I am Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.